Part 7. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanba. Chapter 61. The evil spirit's suppressing charm, as the name suggests, has the effect of suppressing evil spirits. This talisman can press all the disaster energy back into the body of the corpse. I held the evil suppressing talisman in my hand and stepped closer to the grave. Just when I was about to approach the calamity, I silently recited the magic spell in my heart to activate the evil suppressing talisman. Suddenly, the evil suppressing talisman in his hand burst out with dazzling golden light. This scene shocked the people watching on the sidelines. I held the evil suppression talisman and continued to approach the grave. When the golden light emitted by the evil suppressing talisman touches the blood mist, the blood mist spread out like a mouse seeing a cat. I couldn't help but sigh. The talismans drawn by my master were really powerful. If I draw the evil suppressing talisman, will it also achieve this effect? But currently, people like me, who can only stack up to the first level of the 9-level thunder art, how can I compare with my master? I held the talisman and jumped into the grave. The evil suppressing talisman is like a bright light, while the evil spirit is darkness. Because there was disaster all around, after I jumped into the grave, people outside could no longer see me. The golden light of the evil suppressing talisman alone cannot penetrate the bloody calamity. In the darkness, I saw Mr. Xia's coffin. The coffin was already in a state of decay. I stretched out my other hand and pulled it apart, and a section of the coffin was broken off. I was overjoyed. Isn't this just convenient for me? Because I hold the evil suppressing talisman in my hand, I cannot open the coffin. If I can make a small hole where the corpse's head is, then put my hand in and attach the evil suppressing talisman to the corpse of the old man of the Xia family. This evil spirit can naturally suppress the earth. Thinking of this, I no longer hesitated, raised my right hand and smashed it hard against the coffin board. Just hear a snap. I smashed a big hole in the coffin. Because of my inertia, I fell towards the coffin, and my right hand was deeply buried in the coffin. I secretly screamed, because the coffin is not light-tight. There must be a strong aura of calamity inside, but it was too late for me to pull my right hand back. I can only protect the evil suppressing talisman in my left hand. Losing my right hand is better than losing my life. The pain I imagined didn't come from my right arm. I was very confused. Could it be that there was no evil spirit in the coffin? Or is it because of the bloody hands? Just at this time, suddenly I felt like I touched something in my right hand. Slippery, wet, without edges or features. It shouldn't be. This place should be where the Xia family's old man's head is. What exactly is going on? Just when I was wondering, something seemed to bite my hand. I was shocked. The old man of the Xia family faked his corpse. I desperately tried to get my right hand out of the coffin. The thing biting me was so strong that I couldn't break free. But at this moment, an accident happened. The old coffin broke and collapsed instantly because it could not bear my weight. As soon as I was empty, I fell into the coffin. When I came to my senses, I sat up and felt that my hand was still being bitten by the thing. I looked along my right hand and slowly moved my gaze downwards. It didn't matter what I saw. I was suddenly startled and broke out in a cold sweat. The person lying under me turned out to be a monster. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanba. Chapter 62. The word monster is extremely appropriate here. Because beneath me, there is a skinned person lying. He was covered in blood, naked and terrifying. What's even more terrifying is his face. The face that was supposed to have facial features was now empty. There were 3 shocking blood holes where the eyes, nose, and mouth were. And it was the monster's mouth that bit my hand. The scene before me scared me so much that I even forgot to react until the severe pain in my right arm brought me back to reality. At this time, I suddenly found that my right hand turned into a bloody hand again. I didn't push it either. Then severe pain spread throughout my body. The evil spirit comes back. This is really a wave of ups and downs. My whole body was shaking because of the pain, and I had to grit my teeth. I can't pass out at this time. If I pass out, I will definitely die. Su Tianqian, who was outside the evil spirit, immediately noticed that I was being attacked by the evil spirit. She frowned slightly, a look of worry appeared in her eyes, and she took steps toward the grave. But after taking a few steps, he stopped where he was. She looked at the grave, her worry expression not diminishing at all, but her eyes were filled with a little determination. After Su Tianqian hesitated for a long time, he finally did not lend a helping hand to me. At this time, I was almost fainting from the evil spirit. And the bloody hole biting me was loosened. It seemed that he couldn't bear the evil spirit brought by the bloody hands. My vision gradually blurred, but even so, I still held the talisman in my left hand tightly. I used my last bit of strength to raise my left hand. The bloody man's forehead was within my reach, but this small distance seemed extremely far away in my eyes. I used my last bit of strength to stick the evil-suppressing talisman on the bloody man's forehead. In an instant, all the anger returned from all around to the bloody man's mouth. Finally solved. Just when I was about to faint, I suddenly felt myself being pulled up from the coffin with great force. Then I smelled a familiar scent. It's Su Tianqian. She quickly activated the 8-character blood evil, transferring the pain from the evil spirit's backlash to her body. I suddenly felt a heat on my back, and the pain was slowly disappearing. Su Tianxian's originally rosy face instantly turned extremely pale. She reached out her hand, gently stroked my head, and said, "You did a good job." Hearing Su Tianxian's praise, I felt extremely relieved. I rolled my eyes and fell into Su Tianxian's arms. When I woke up again, it was noon the next day. I dragged my tired body out of the room and came to the first floor. Su Tianqian was still sitting on the 8 Immortals chair reading as usual. "Woke up?" Su Tianqian said calmly. I nodded, looked at Su Tianxian's slightly pale face and asked, "Master, are you okay?" "It's okay. Fortunately, singing ghost plays has accumulated some merit for you, otherwise you might have been in trouble this time." I felt so sad in my heart that I walked through the gate of hell again. I suddenly remembered the bloody man and asked, "Master, is that Xia Jingming in the coffin?" Su Tianqian put down the book, looked at me and said, "Yes, that's him." It turned out to be Xia Jingming. He was actually skinned. Who on earth was so cruel and ruthless as to take off his skin? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 63. I asked out the doubts in my mind. Su Tianqian shook his head and said, "I don't know either." I was shocked that even Su Tianqian didn't know about it. Who did the Xia family offend? I suddenly remembered Xia Jingming's body and asked, "Master, where is Xia Jingming's body now? Has it been buried?" "No, his body is now in Yizhuang." After hearing this, I felt like I had just been a little stupid. Because Su Tianqian said before that I had to do the relocation of Xia Jingming's grave, and I just took Xia Jingming's body out of the coffin. Su Tianqian glanced at me and said, "You must do the moving of the grave, and Xia Jingming can no longer be buried in the ground." This made me wonder, since it can't be buried in the ground, where should it be buried? Come here, let me tell you about Xia Jingming's tomb relocation. Later, Su Tianqian told me about the issues that need to be paid attention to when moving Xia Jingming's grave. At the end of the conversation, Su Tianqian said something that was confusing to me. "Remember, after nightfall today, no matter who you see, you must be vigilant." I asked in confusion, "Why?" "Master, Su Tianqian glanced at me lightly and said, "It's very possible that they are not human." "Not human?" After Su Tianqian said this, he stood up and walked towards the second floor. And I didn't stay in Jiyuntang anymore. I was going to prepare for moving the tomb in the evening. When Su Tianqian walked to the second floor, her steps suddenly became a little staggering. She leaned against the wall and stretched out her slender white hands to gently cover her chest. After I left Jiyuntang, I contacted Xia11, and the two of us met at a milk tea shop. Seeing that I was fine, Xia11 breathed a long sigh of relief and said, "Great, you're fine." What happened last night almost scared her to death. Fortunately, nothing happened to me. I looked at Xia11 with a serious expression and said, "Xia11, you have to go to Yizhuang with me tonight." Xia11 was slightly stunned. She knew that her grandfather was in Yizhuang now. Could it be that something happened to her grandfather? "Your grandfather will transform into a corpse tonight, and he will definitely attack your family then." Xia11 opened her mouth slightly and looked at me in disbelief. "How so?" I explained, "Your grandfather's tomb was tampered with, and his skin was peeled off. He was very disfigured when he came out of the coffin, so your grandfather will definitely transform into a corpse tonight. And your grandfather's corpse transformation must be a blood evil, which is not easy to deal with." These are what Su Tianqian told me. In fact, I can guess a little bit in my heart. After all, I am no longer that novice. So one of you must go to Yizhuang with me and attract your grandfather's attention. In this case, your grandfather will not attack other people and I will have time to subdue him." After hearing this, Xia11 fell silent. After a while, she raised her head and said, "I'll go with you. Her father is in the hospital now, and her second grandfather is too old, so it is impossible for her to let him go." I nodded and said, "Okay, you can go with me tonight, but before I go, I need to prepare some things." As for how to deal with the blood evil, Su Tianqian has already told me. The next thing missing is tools. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 64. Ji Yuntang has tools and other things, just pick them up when the time comes. By the time Xia11 and I returned to Ji Yuntang, Su Tianqian had already left. As for where he went, I didn't know. I packed up my things and went to Yizhuang with Xia11. In fact, in the true sense, Yizhuang does not just refer to a place where the dead are placed. Yizhuang is a farm property owned by ancient Chinese clans, which began in the northern Song dynasty. It is a unique charity institution founded by a family with a certain surname in ancient China. The most famous and earliest Yizhuang is Fan's Yizhuang, whose founder was Fan's Hongyan in the Song dynasty. In addition to parking the corpses, Yizhuang will also help with marriages, funerals, and imperial examinations. In this day and age, Yizhuang is almost invisible, but I never thought that it was built with money from the Xia family. The Yizhuang in front of us looks simple and dilapidated from the outside. The vines climb up the dilapidated walls, creating a mysterious and weird atmosphere for the entire Yizhuang. Walking into it, there was choking dust coming from the shop. It seemed that no one had been to this Yizhuang for a long time. There were several coffins neatly placed in the Yizhuang. Some of the coffins were dilapidated, and the coffin lids were scattered on the ground. Although some coffins are not old, the thick dust on them shows that they have been parked here for a long time. A new coffin caught my attention. I thought this coffin contained Xia Jingming. Xia11 stretched out her hand, gently pulled the corner of my clothes, and said, "Lu Su, these coffins won't be filled with." I nodded and said, "Yes, all good coffins contain dead people." Xia11's delicate body trembled, her beautiful eyes filled with fear. She still held onto the corner of my clothes and refused to let go. Because men and women are different, it's not easy for her to be too intimate with me. I took out the incense I had prepared in advance, inserted it into the incense burner, and then took out a lighter and lit it. Yizhuang has its own rules. The people who guard the Yizhuang are called corpse keepers. I don't know if there is a corpse keeper in this Yizhuang, but regardless of whether there is one, I will stop Xia Jingming's corpse transformation. At this moment, Xia 11's scream attracted my attention. I quickly looked over and saw that Xia 11 had been paralyzed on the ground in fear. She pointed at a coffin in front of her and said tremblingly, there are corpses in here. Logically speaking, it is normal for a body to be in a coffin. But the coffin in front of Xia 11 didn't even have a coffin lid, and the coffin was also dilapidated. How could it store the body? I walked to Xia 11 in one stride and helped her up. I glanced inside the coffin. The scene that caught my eye made my hair stand on end instantly. There is indeed a corpse in the coffin, and it is a corpse that has just been skinned. It's no wonder Xia 11 was startled. I couldn't bear this scene. The corpse lay bloody in the coffin, face up. I stared at the corpse carefully and felt an inexplicable familiarity. It seemed like I had seen this corpse somewhere. I frowned and thought about it carefully. After thinking about it for a long time, I didn't think of it. I put my eyes on the corpse again. When I saw the jade bracelet on the wrist of the corpse, I was stunned for a moment. It's Suluo. This corpse turned out to be Suluo's corpse. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 65. Suluo had this jade bracelet on her hand before. She also told me that this was used to ward off evil spirits. The cause of Suluo's death is actually not difficult to guess. She was killed by Xia 11's sister. But why does Suluo's body appear here? And he even got skinned. This reminds me of Xia Jingming. Could it be that Xia Jingming's skin was also removed by sister Xia 11? Thinking of this, I can no longer calm down. Preventing Xia Jingming's corpse transformation itself is a very difficult matter. And I have a hunch tonight that Xia 11's sister and Suluo will come here to cause trouble. Can I really solve all this on my own? Xia 11 and I returned to the car. Xia 11 sat in the back row in shock, while I took out the prepared yellow paper and cinnabar or drew the talismans. This is my first time drawing talismans. The drawn talisman is called Jusha talisman. In order to prevent Xia Jingming's corpse from breaking out of the coffin, it could only be suppressed with the Ju evil talisman. Although this is my first time drawing symbols, I don't know why, but I don't feel unfamiliar at all. I guess it's because I drew ghost money before. At this time, I finally understood Su Tianxuan's good intentions. She asked me to draw ghost money to pave the way for me to draw talismans. Drawing talismans is an extremely labor-intensive task. The process of drawing the talisman requires full concentration, and you also need to inject your own spiritual power into the talisman. Because only in this way can the talisman exert greater power. The same talisman will have different powers if it comes from different people's hands. Comparing Su Tianxian and me, the talismans she painted are beyond my reach now. I drew from noon to evening, and then I drew 5 Jusha talisman. During this process, Xia 11 sat in the back row and remained silent. Seeing me stop what I was doing, she quickly asked, "Lu Su, what should we do next?" I glanced at Xia 11 and said, "I will go to Yizhuang to set up the magic circle later. Just stay with me then." Xia 11 nodded, her face looked very bad. I hesitated for a moment and said, Don't worry, I will protect you." In fact, when I say this, I have no confidence in my heart. I have no idea what my strength is. But I can't act too cowardly in front of girls, right? What's more, I still have 2 trump cards. One is a bloody hand and the other is a ghost mark. Bloody hands should not be used except as a last resort. The evil energy backfired not only on me, but also on Su Tianxian. I didn't want Su Tianxian to be harmed anymore because of me. I have never used Ghost Seal before, and I don't know exactly what kind of ability it is. After hearing what I said, Xia 11 stared at me closely with a pair of beautiful eyes. Finally, she nodded heavily and said, I understand. Xia 11 and I came to Yizhuang again. I took out the red rope and placed a magic circle in front of Xia Jingming's coffin, and then affixed the drawn evil talisman on the coffin. Then take out the white candle and place it in the magic circle. This white wax is the key to preventing Xia Jingming's corpse transformation. If the candle is not extinguished after passing the time, the magic circle will be able to dispel the evil spirit in Xia Jingming's body. If it goes out before midnight, it will be troublesome. When the time comes, Xia Jingming will definitely break out of the coffin and kill us all. Xia 11 knelt in front of her grandfather's coffin and kept praying in a low voice. Night was approaching, and I was just about to light the candles in the circle when there was a rapid knock on the door. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanba. Chapter 66. Just now I locked the door of Yizhuang before entering. I'm just afraid that someone will come in and cause trouble. But now there was a knock on the door. Xia 11 was also startled. Just when I was hesitating to open the door, a man's voice came from outside the door. Is there anyone in there? I remained unmoved and listened carefully to the sound of knocking on the door. It's not 3 long and 2 short, which means that the person knocking on the door is not a ghost, but a living person? Thinking of this, I came to the gate of Yizhuang and looked at the situation outside through the crack in the door. The moonlight tonight is very bright, shining on the ground like a mirror. Through the moonlight, I can just clearly see the situation outside Yizhuang. A man stood in front of the gate of my village. Because of the angle of the moon in the sky, I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could clearly see the shadow he cast on the ground. He was indeed a man, but why did he come to Yizhuang at night? This puzzles me. The man's voice sounded again. Is anyone here? Can you open the door? If you don't open the door, I will be hit. I hesitated and opened the door. Because the man's attitude was very determined, if he couldn't come in today, he wouldn't be able to leave. The door opened, and this time I could clearly see the man's appearance. The man was about 30 years old, with stubble all over his face and looked very haggard. When he saw me, a hint of vigilance clearly flashed in his eyes. Who are you? Why are you here? I glanced at the man lightly and said, pay homage to our ancestors. Then I turned around and left. The man was obviously taken aback after hearing what I said, and he followed me and walked in. I came to Xia Jingming's coffin, took out a lighter, and lit all the candles. The whole time I was paying attention to what the man was doing. He first came to a coffin, then took the paper burning brazier, lit the yellow paper he brought, and threw it into the brazier. The man is obviously also paying homage to the deceased. But his movements and demeanor made me feel something was wrong. Because I can't feel the slightest sadness in him. And it also gives people a feeling of being absent-minded. He looked towards me from time to time, and I quickly looked away. The man didn't say anything and just kept kneeling for about half an hour. He came to me and said, "Little brother, it's so late, why don't you go home?" I replied, "I'm not leaving tonight, I want to spend time with his old man." I looked at Xia Jingming's coffin. After hearing what I said, the man's face instantly turned extremely ugly. I asked, "What about you? Why don't you leave so late?" The man gave the same answer as me. "I also want to spend more time with my mother." After saying that, the man returned to the coffin and continued to kneel. The man's reaction really concerned me. It is actually a very common thing to come to Yizhuang to worship ancestors. Some people's families are poor and cannot afford a coffin for burial, so they put the body in a righteous village. Coming to Yizhuang to pay homage to your ancestors is the same as visiting a grave. After visiting the grave, there is no point in staying at the grave all night. The fact that a man doesn't leave has a certain impact on me, but not much. He and I have never met each other. If something really happened, I would definitely choose to protect myself. After all, I am not a holy mother to care about the safety of a stranger. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanba. Chapter 67. I'd better do my own thing well. Time passed by minute, and it soon entered midnight. At this time, a dark wind blew, and the door of Yizhuang slowly opened with a creak. I followed the sound and looked over, and endless darkness came into my eyes. I quickly stood up and came to the gate of Yizhuang. I was about to reach out and close the door. But something suddenly occurred to me. That's the rule of Yizhuang. The ghosts in Yizhuang will go out and wander around at night, and then come back at midnight. If I close the door now, wouldn't it be a violation of the rules? Thinking of this, I still retracted my hand. As long as the candle does not go out after the hour, Xia Jingming's corpse transformation can be successfully suppressed. It can then be reburied. Xia 11 still knelt in front of her grandfather's coffin and refused to get up. I didn't say anything. I could tell that Xia 11 and his grandfather had a very good relationship. At this moment, except for the candle light in front of Xia Jingming's coffin, the light in other places disappeared instantly. I suddenly had a bad feeling in my heart. Xia 11 was also startled by this sudden change. Our situation at the moment is like a bubble in the deep sea. Except for the bubble, the eyes become dark. It's okay, don't be afraid. I offered words of comfort. Xia 11 nodded. Tap tap tap. The dull sound of footsteps suddenly sounded. I was slightly startled. The footsteps seemed to come from the direction of the man. Just as this thought emerged in my mind, I saw a man sticking his head out of the darkness. The man at this time had deep fear in his eyes, and it seemed that the sudden change had frightened him too much. Can I stay with you for a while? Logically speaking, a grown man shouldn't be so afraid of the dark, but this is no other place, but Yizhuang. There were 7 or 8 corpses lying around. Moreover, the surrounding darkness was so dark that it made people feel panicked. Except for the candle light in front of the coffin, there was no light at all. I nodded and said, "Sit on the outside and don't get close to the candle light." The man nodded repeatedly after hearing this. I sat on the ground, feeling like something was wrong. I suddenly recalled the footsteps I just heard. Instantly the hair on the hair stood on end. There was no doubt that it was a man's footsteps, but that kind of footsteps didn't sound like a sound that a person could make. At least there must be more than 2 people. Thinking of this, I quickly stood up, held the seal of the 9 layers of thunder in my hand, and stared closely into the darkness. When Xia 11 saw me like this, she quickly stood up and hid behind me. The footsteps sounded again, and this time I heard them clearly. It came from the direction of Yizhuang Gate. I looked at the direction of the footsteps vigilantly, ready to use thunder at any time. Suddenly, footsteps sounded behind me. I was shocked. Was this damn thing so fast? Is she Suluo or Xia 11's sister? I turned around suddenly and saw a pale ghost hand slowly appearing from the darkness. I just wanted to use the 9 layers thunder art, but found that it was too late. Because that pale ghost hand had already touched Xia 11's pretty face. Xia 11 would also be harmed if she used thunder technique. In just 1 second, Xia 11 was dragged into the endless darkness by pale ghost hands. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanba. Chapter 68. I was so frightened that I didn't care about the candle in front of the coffin and rushed into the darkness. The darkness was so thick that the light of the candle in front of the coffin could not darken it at all. So, my eyes were completely dark and I couldn't see anything. I relied on my instinct to grab Xia 11 in the direction where she disappeared. Sure enough, I caught something. It's a hand, smooth and warm. It's Xia 11. I quickly used all my strength to pull Cia-11 out of the darkness. Regaining the light gave me some peace of mind. Looking at Cia-11 again, she seemed to be frightened by the scene just now, sitting on the ground motionless. I quickly stepped forward and asked, "Are you okay?" Cia-11 turned her head stiffly and said to me, "No. It's okay." Cia-11 was not the only one who was frightened. There was also the man, who was sitting there blankly, his expression dull, his eyes full of fear. I glanced at the candle in front of the coffin, but fortunately it was not extinguished. If this goes out, I don't know how many ghosts I will face tonight. The corpse turned Xia Jingming, Suluo, and the evil ghost hiding in the darkness. It suddenly occurred to me that Cia-11 seemed to have been caught by that evil ghost just now. I quickly stepped forward to check where Cia-11 had just been arrested. When I saw Cia-11's face, I froze in place. Because there was no change at all where Cia-11 had just been captured by the ghost. This shouldn't be the case. When living people are touched by ghosts, they will be infected with some yin energy, and their skin will also change. However, Cia-11's skin is intact without any changes. If we have to talk about changes, her skin is better than before. White. This kind of whiteness is not the fair and rosy white before, but a kind of paleness. Cia-11, are you okay? Cia-11 glanced at me, shook her head, and said, I'm fine, I was just scared. I nodded after listening. It was understandable that I was frightened in the situation just now. At this time, the man had already recovered from his shock. He stood up in a panic, looking around in horror, his whole body trembling. I want to leave here. The man's tone changed from a murmur at the beginning to a hoarse voice at the end. I want to get out of here. I want to get out of here. The man turned around and ran towards the darkness. I shouted at him, "If you run out, you will definitely die." But the man didn't listen to my dissuasion and ran into the darkness on his own. Seeing the man leave, I let out a long sigh. I've already warned him, but he didn't listen, and it was his own fault that he lost his life. The surroundings fell into silence again, with only the candle light emitting a faint light. I glanced at the time and saw that there was still some time before midnight passed. I just hoped that nothing would go wrong in the process. Cia-11 sat quietly by the candle light, staring at the candle light in a daze. It seems that what just happened has hit her so hard that she can't even react now. At this time, Cia-11 slowly raised her eyes and looked at me quietly. Our eyes met, and I fell deeply into Cia-11's beautiful eyes. She spoke slowly, "Lusu, I'm scared, can you hug me?" I was stunned for a moment. Hug her? To be honest, Cia-11 is really beautiful, but wouldn't it be a little strange to hug her in this situation? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 69. Cia-11 spoke again. "Lusu, I'm really scared, can you hug me?" When Cia-11 said this, tears were shining in her beautiful eyes, looking pitiful. I believe that no man can bear the sight of a beautiful woman looking at you like rain. Although I was confused, I still unconsciously approached Cia-11. When Cia-11 saw me coming, she opened her slender arms and was about to take me into her arms. But at this moment, I suddenly felt a bone-chilling chill from Cia-11's body. I took a few steps back, feeling that Cia-11's situation was a little strange. At this moment, Cia-11 stood up suddenly and threw herself into my arms. A chill instantly spread throughout my body. Before I could react, Cia-11's red lips suddenly kissed me. At this time, my mind was chaotic and confused. But the instinct in my heart told me that something was wrong with Cia-11. I quickly turned my head to the side, and Cia-11 kissed the air. I pushed Xia11 away and asked coldly, "What do you want to do?" Xia11 bit her lip lightly, looking pitiful. She wiped her tears and sobbed, "You don't have to treat me like this if you don't like me, right?" This sentence completely let me know that the Xia11 in front of me was definitely not the real Xia11. Although my contact time with Xia11 was short, I also know what kind of woman she is. She is a woman who likes to keep her emotions inside. Otherwise it would be impossible to sit alone on a bench and cry. Unless there is no other way, she will vent her emotions. There is another reason why I am so sure. That's because Xia11 and I have only known each other for a long time. How could we fall in love? I pinched the seal of the 9 layers Thunder Jew. Suddenly, a person rushed in from the darkness. It's the man who just ran out. When the man saw the scene in front of him, he was stunned again. He pointed at Xia11 and said, "How come there are 2 of you? 2 summer evenings." The man yelled at Xia11 at the top of his lungs, "Who the hell are you? I want to leave here. I want to leave here. I don't want those burial objects anymore. I don't want them anymore." Hearing this sentence, I instantly understood the purpose of the man coming here. Any talk of worshipping his mother is a lie. His real purpose was the burial objects in the coffin. You must know that the dead in Yizhuang also have burial objects. And it's worth a lot of money, no matter who left it. There are 2 possibilities. The first one is left by the family of the deceased. Yizhuang is just a place to park the body, and it will be buried in the end. Therefore, the family members of the deceased will place funerary objects in the coffin. The second situation is that the deceased kept it himself. They knew that their time was running out, so they left the burial objects with the bodyguards in Yizhuang. After death, let the bodyguard place the body in the coffin. And it is impossible for the corpse guardian to embezzle the funerary objects. Because every line has its own rules. If you break the rules, you will be punished by God. Therefore, the bodyguards will not embezzle the funerary objects at all. Also, I care a lot about what men say. 2 summer evenings. Could it be that the person in front of me is a ghost? I suddenly heard the word Su Tianxian told me, "Don't trust anyone, because they may not be human." So when was Xia11 transferred? Could it be that the moment he was pulled into the darkness by ghost hands? Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 70. What kind of monster is in the dark, and how can it transform into a human being in such a short period of time? So where is the real Xia11? After listening to the man's words, I held Lei Ju and hid Xia11. But Xia11 turned around and hid. She stood up slowly and looked at me with a gloomy expression. "You want to kill me? Am I Xia11?" I raised a sneer at the corner of my mouth and said, "Facing the real Xia11, I naturally can't do anything, but facing a ghost like you, how can I be soft-hearted?" The Xia11 in front of me is still confusing my judgment. But this is of no use to me. I trust my own judgment. Regardless of the man's words or Xia11's weird behavior just now, I can be sure that the Xia11 in front of me is not the real Xia11. I picked up the 9 layers Thunder Jew again and hit Xia11. Xia11's facial expression became a little ferocious, and her eyes became extremely cold. Just when Lei Ju was about to hit Xia11, Xia11 suddenly rolled away in the direction of the candle. I screamed in my heart that it was bad. I wanted to stop it, but it was too late. All the candles were extinguished, and the surroundings fell into infinite darkness and deathly silence. I stepped back continuously, keeping distance from Xia Jingming's coffin. When the candle goes out, Xia Jingming will definitely transform into a corpse, and it will also be a blood evil, which I can't deal with now. What to do? Run. But Xia11's life or death is uncertain. Can I just leave like this? Just when I was hesitating to leave, there was a sudden rustling sound in the darkness. Then there was a bang and the sound of broken boards. He's out. At the same time, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the darkness. The scene before me made my hair stand on end. I saw Xia Jingming sitting in the coffin covered in blood, with bloody mist and darkness intertwined around him. He still looks the same as I saw him yesterday. No skin, no facial features, but he seems to have a mind of his own now. He turned his head stiffly, staring at me with a pair of dark, empty eyes. Outside Yizhuang, there were bursts of thunder and lightning flashes. Looking around, the man and Xia 11 had disappeared. What to do? What to do? What on earth should I do now? I'm sure I can't run away, so give it a try. Isn't that just hitting an egg against a stone? When Su Tianxian comes to save me, can she come? Just when I was in a daze, the blood evil spirit jumped out of the coffin and rushed towards me. I ducked and dodged. Due to inertia, the blood evil directly knocked down the coffin behind where I was just now. Run. No matter whether you can run away or not, you must run. I ran towards the door of Yizhuang. After rushing out of Yizhuang, there was a strong wind outside, lightning and thunder in the sky, and there were no stars in the sky, as if a heavy rain was brewing. At the same time as I rushed out of Yizhuang, the blood demon also appeared behind me and rushed towards me again. I can clearly feel the evil spirit coming from behind me. I instinctively fell to one side, but the blood demon jumped into the air again. This guy is so fast. There is no way to win at all. I struggled to stand up, holding the Thunder Jew in my hand, and faced off against the blood evil. The blood fiend looked at me and let out a low roar. I stepped back repeatedly, and the blood fiend pressed forward step by step. I can't run anymore, I can't run away anyway, so I might as well give it a try.